Let's move. Blaze of justice. We stand as one. Are you gonna give me orders?
Hi again, everyone. It's still me, Zombie Grub, bringing you the cast alongside Rotterdam, and we are also joined by our wonderful sponsors, Ting, Shopify, Secret Lab, and Twitch. Thank you guys so much. We are going to be bringing you a TVP in just a hot second here, but first, I think Zombie Grub made every prediction correct this weekend. Well, today, anyways. Ta-ta! I'm so happy. I helped TLO, and I have the serious redemption for last weekend, man. And of course, I'm guessing this is when I start not correcting them correctly, right? I did TLO a favor, and now it's going to go downhill from here.
What did you got for, or who do you have for this one? Zest, I guess, right?
No, so I literally like posted this and then edited it. I don't have much faith in Zest right now, to be honest, despite him being like my favorite player and a super cool guy. I actually have time winning
and
this
very
series.
handsome.
Yeah. I felt like I played him.
This is one that I actually, I'm a little 50-50 about, but I think you can overcomplicate things or just keep it simple. And I think in the end of the day, I think Zest is actually good enough to win this. Obviously, these games will be played on the Korean server as well. And I actually think that Zest is going to get the job done. I am going to completely forget about the series he had against Utermo. Of course, Utermo had really cool builds prepared and clearly caught Zest off guard a couple of times. But especially the Nightshade game last week, I found that was a shockingly bad game by Zest. That's one where he really could have done so much better. He built 5 shield batteries and then he still just blinked into siege tanks and marines away from the batteries. I was like, Zest, what are you doing? This is not the Zest I know. But we're going to forget about that. I think this is going to be fun because I think Time never has a boring series. He's one of my favorite foreign Terran players out there. He is hyper aggressive. He has great multitasking. He's a kind of in-your-face Terran. So I think this is going to be fireworks. But I am actually, I'm going against you for the first time today then. And I actually think Zest takes this one.
Well, that makes things more interesting, man. So I'm glad to hear it. Speaking of interesting things, SCV being sent out from this guy in the bottom left. He is the blue Terran, Time.
And on the right top side, we're looking at the main base of the man of Man EC as best. Last week he wasn't, but let's see, he still is. It is Zest.
Well, his GSL didn't go so hot. Last weekend didn't go so hot. He even lost a PvP recently. Roddy? I don't know, man. I don't know.
Losing a PvP? Who is this guy?
Exactly. I mean, it was against Trap, to be fair, but still.
Yeah. I mean, if you're ever supposed to lose a PvP series, then I think dropping one against Trap is not the end of the world. No, I think you're being too harsh. I think he's going to get it done. I don't know if it's going to be a pretty series, but I do think that Zest is going to look a lot better. We can already see him starting off with a scout, and this is a good moment to go for a very early probe scout, because Time is indeed building his barracks on the other side of the map. I like how he's even checking the corner. He's like, are you playing games on me? Are you just hiding it? No, Time is not hiding it. It is actually being proxied out on the map. I'm still expecting Zest to just expand, but indeed after the cybernetics core, which makes a lot of sense.
He's doing this full-on proxy. I'm actually so excited for this. Especially if Zest doesn't re-scout the main base. He might just be assuming that it's a proxy Reaper and then a factory back at home. Because that's what, 75% of the proxies end up happening for. But Time is nah. Both buildings on this side of the map. I'd love it if he also set on a starport and did some old-fashioned battlecruiser. It's pretty important that Zest gets back in here and sees the factory is also not at home. But he's already committed to the Nexus. So,
did you say battlecruiser?
Oh yeah, these fantasies do this build where we proxy everything and do a tank push with a battlecruiser after a Hellion drop. It's pretty sick. High win record.
On one base. Okay, I have seen it, but I was like, it's gonna be hard to afford Marines and tanks and battlecruisers on one base. But yeah, I guess if you just go for a Hellion drop, then it's possible. This Zealot is going for a little adventure. Didn't really find what it's looking for yet, but it's getting awfully close, and it is going to find it, and that's really good timing, by the way. It might be able to get a couple hit stuff on the SCVs, and that would be massive, because this starport isn't done yet. The Marines are not here yet to save it. Zest, oh, Zest. This is the Zest I know and the Zest I love.
It's a good thing he sent that Zealot out. I actually found all the proxies, not just to stall out that starport, which is quite amazing, but also to determine what exactly is coming out of all those buildings. I mean, the 111, yes, but there's so many options with the 111. Typically tanks, but there are some other options you have. 4 Marines against this number of units getting on top of the Stalker already, actually making it look better than it should. But the Stalker is technically, like, it's microable against every one of these units, and the second Stalker, the tank is going to have to pop out and save the day.
Yep, tank will pop out and save the day. Time would love to kill that one Stalker. Zest is actually going to run to the other side of the map. Is he going to try to get into the main base and pick up a few SCVs? He can obviously always recall these units home. It's important that they save some energy. I like this a lot. This is a crazy play that I've almost never seen, but I think it's awesome.
I think it is the right call, and just have energy for a recall. Like, this, there's not much that Time can do about this, but he's going to try and commit to it anyways. And there is production problem as I hear myself in my ear. All right, cool. And there is all the SCVs going down. That's what I wanted to say. And Time still has not yet committed to the actual push.
Okay, Time is actually going to send his tanks home. And I mean, I guess sure, otherwise he's never going to kill this. But this also means that his attack is going to be incredibly delayed. And SCVs are not going to have a good time fighting these 2 Stalkers that are in a choke point. One Stalker is surrounded and may actually go down to those 3 SCVs. No, it's not going to go down yet. Well, the tanks are going to make sure it does go down. But at this point, Time has 7 SCVs. He does have a drop in the main base, by the way. Zest, it's important you pay attention to that.
Yeah, there's no way that ever does as much damage, right? The probe should at least be pulled away. He's going to focus fire down some of the probes. And it's a little more difficult than I think Zest was looking for, but he gets the medevac. This is a complete disaster for Time. As soon as he sent those tanks back home, instead of trying to go for the attack, I knew it was game over. And even if he had sent the attack, I was pretty sure that Zest was going to win this anyways. But now it's like for sure. There's no way that Time wins with this push.
The tank is sieged up, so it's going to be able to get a couple of good shots off. Okay, that went slightly better for Time than it probably was supposed to. I gotta say, I am not super worried for Zest, but 17 probes is not much. And that does mean that Zest is now in a position he really can't afford to make any more mistakes, as he almost ate a few more big tank shots. I mean, he's got shield batteries. This should never get close, right?
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. The Immortal plus the War Prism is really what I was staking my claim on. The whole he never wins with this push, just because Immortal doesn't die. Immortal doesn't die. Hello, why would you risk this? Why would he risk this? Why is he risking this? Zest, please don't do this to me. Okay, he's fine. He's got enough Stalkers. He's good.
Yeah, well, there is a medevac as well, but a lot of damage on the medevac already. GG gets called. Zest does win game 1. In a very typical game where Zest can look fantastic and kind of silly at the same time, where he makes a couple of brilliant calls early on. He obviously gets a fantastic scout. There's a little bit of luck involved in getting a scout like that with the Zealot, but he made perfect calls. He fought. He stalled the starport from finishing up. He got a couple SCVs there. He got a couple Marines. And then I love the call to run towards the main base. That's game winning. And after that, he made a couple of somewhat questionable decisions to make this game a little closer than it should have been.
I do love that summary of Zest. Like, he can look amazing and also kind of bad at the same time. I mean, letting the Immortal die was an unnecessary risk. And then there's a ton of TVP examples where he eventually wins the game, but first his gateways are late and he's supply blocked. And you're like, pro gamer?
Yeah, and then he wins the fight with 1,100 minerals in the bank. And I'm like, what? Like, I feel like I spend every mineral and I lose those fights. And he wins it while sitting on a nice little good old Zest bank. But, he does get the 1-0 lead and obviously didn't even review anything yet, right? I think that's always kind of nice as well. If you get 1-0 up in a best of 5, and he didn't even reveal the way that he wants to play against Terran today.
That is a really nice point to make. That's Time reveals that he's going to be cheesy. I totally would have called that. I think Zest would have called that, hey, confirmation. And Zest doesn't reveal anything. Most guesses for Zest build in TVP is that blink opener. But with everyone doing that 4-gate blink thing, I think that's what I'm really looking to see if Zest is also using it or not. He didn't have to show it. He just defended.
You know what it is with Time? As much as Zest has his bad days, Time also has quite a few bad days, right? Like, I think if Time has his best day, like if you think back of that amazing series that he had against Terror, or a couple of the other great runs he had in some of the WCS circuit events, we know what he's capable of. GSL vs. the World last year, Time looked fantastic, gained so many fans, but Time also has moments where he just kind of stops playing the game for a month, and I feel like it's really hard for him to take his game to the next level if he keeps doing that kind of stuff. I don't know if he's been doing that recently, like I'm not super close or know exactly what he's been doing over the last few weeks. I can obviously assume that he's been playing, but I don't see that much off time. Like he plays in a couple of the weeklies here and there, but I don't really see him have spectacular runs. And I do feel that he has the skill, if he really brings out his best and if he pushes himself to have spectacular runs and to really bring the fight to some of the top Korean players. But it's been a little quiet around Time lately, and that gives me the feeling that this is not the best Time there's ever been.
He's really not. What we saw when we were really getting on the hype train for Time back in Montreal was that his multitasking and his macro was really up to par. But what we see for the past, like even 6 months, but certainly the past couple of weeks, he's making situations where luck can be a bit of a factor. That's the best way I'll put it. I don't want to say he's getting lucky, but he is being aggressive. He is proxying. He is cheesing. He's doing 1 base or 2 base all-ins versus Protoss or Terran. The way he qualified in here is actually off of a lot of super scrappy series. 2 1s where I could have sworn he was going to lose it, and then he ends up barely winning. So I don't know if it's just him changing up his style or not feeling confident, but he is playing certainly a decent amount. I just don't know if his all-ins are actually so dependable to continue doing them.
I don't know. That always makes me a bit sad because I feel like he didn't have to be that kind of a player. Like some players are just all-in players because that's their best chance of winning. Time is someone who has a lot of skill. If he really puts it all on the line, if he pushes himself to be the best possible version of himself, this kid is amazing. And it's very easy to be a big fan of him, especially if you follow Foreign StarCraft very closely and you've seen some of his games in the past. Maybe we'll still see some of that in this best of 5, and I really think he's going to need it. Otherwise, this man is going to be too much to handle in the right top side of Eternal Empire. He's up 1-0. It is Zest.
In the bottom left, as the blue Terran, he is Time. So
at least the SCVs are at home, so that's a good sign.
Exactly. No SCVs being sent out this time. But I still don't... I still feel like he's going to do a 2-racks or 2-base push, as that what he's been doing. Now, it can be something that's actually still good. I think the 1 base being scouted, literally scouted like with the first probe as it's expected, but also being scouted, its location, its production, that's not supposed to work when that happens. Then it has, Zest chooses whatever option he wants to when he holds against that. The 2-base builds that, even if they're scouted, are a little more difficult to hold. That's what I'm more scared of. Even if Time had done the 1-base build we saw TY do, actually, I would have had more faith in that than the whole proxy once it was scouted. So I still think he's going to do a 2-base push, but I would love to see Time be that Terran that we hope he would be, macro really well, and then just like multitask everywhere.
Well, it's not just that we hope he would be, it's also that we know he could be, right? Because he has shown us in the past. I mean, that best of 5 that he played against Serral back then at Aces ROG, it was amazing. It was one of the best of 5s we had throughout the entirety of last year. Just fantastic StarCraft from start to finish. And in that series, he really showed us what he's capable of if he's feeling it. Problem with Time is that he seems to not always be feeling it and sometimes goes through weird phases where it's like, all right, I'm going to be a completely different player now. And it's like, no, you don't have to be. Please be who we want you to be because we know you can be.
Yeah, it is weird. It is like phases. So, the phase right now.
It's not just a phase, Zombie Grub. It's who I am.
The emo equivalent is like 2-rack for 2-basing.
Don't call it a phase.
Well, Twilight Council has come down. As I said, for Zest, I anticipate him being a Twilight Council player, even though he can mix in anything else. In fact, I've even seen him do a couple Colossus drops recently, but save that one for the ladder, maybe. The 2-1-1, hiding that second barracks behind the minerals means that it's unlikely an Observer would scout it, or even an Oracle if it was a Stargate. Well, Zest's not really doing something that's going to scout anyways, and actually, he's the one that's going to be really aggressive.
Yes. You think it's just for a gateway, or?
I think so, yeah. Oh my god, he's actually crying.
Exactly. I was like, why? Because normally you can do this with a War Prism as well, and then the War Prism obviously gives you high ground vision, and it gives you quicker reinforcements. As a gateway, that felt a bit odd. The timing of it just felt odd, because if you want to do that for Zealot Weapons later on, if you want to skip the robot, then you build it a bit later too. Now he's going to build a gateway there as well, so it's a Dark Shrine and a gateway. All right, Zest. All right. I don't know.
Well, with the setup he has, very anti-Reaper, a couple of units in the natural, it's very difficult to scout this out. And if it's going to be proxied as well, like the timing for Terrans, we kind of say 430 plus, like start thinking about saving some scans. Between 435, right? It's like save a scan. But there are DT builds where if you're like really in proxy, hit like 420, 420 build. And those are like, you just wouldn't be prepared for them. Don't have a lot of units either necessarily. In this case, Time will have more Marines than usual, but obviously no access to a starport for a Raven, which is going to get painful. Say he doesn't just immediately lose because DT show up. He's not going to be able to get a Raven anytime soon.
Yep, and there's no eBay with this build either, so it's not like he was going for a very quick +1 where he at least has access to missile turrets. I'm starting to get pretty worried here. We're going to keep a close eye on the orbital commands. How much energy is saved up? Well, 2 scans available at this point. I mean, that's obviously where you want to be as Time. Please don't drop any mules. He does not drop any mules. He will have scans available. Gets the first Dark Templar immediately. Second one is in the main, but he has 1 more scan. So, okay, you lose 2 scans, but only lost 3 SCVs to kill 2 Dark Templars, and that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, engineer base done, so he immediately slaps on the missile turret. That was better than I expected. I was really worried, 5 seconds for the DTs pop in that he was going to mule, but good on to hold on to it until that 430 mark. And good defense. Missile turret's going to finish up just
I might get
time.
1 more.
Nicely done by Zest to pull back from that.
I would have lost.
Right.
It's like, I can go in. That's that one moment where I'm like, I'm supply blocked. I'll take a look at what's happening at home, and that's when your Dark Templar runs into that missile turret. I'm a bit surprised that Time is this eager to move out now, because he should know that there's always going to be more. I find that risky. Like, it could obviously pay off in a very big way, because his army is powerful. He's got Stim. Combat Shield is almost done. So if he can force the fight, awesome. But this is also going to get very weird, and he's going to lose a lot of stuff at home. I have the feeling that this is not going to be a very long game.
I wouldn't have minded it if he had kept stuff back at home, waited for another, couple of units, but he does see the recall of the Archons, so he could try to go back to mining, already losing 7 SCVs. Maybe if that means he gets missile turrets on the offensive, it's actually better, but he needs to get it.
This army actually is sick of Time, right? Like, there's a lot of firepower in it. Sure, he can stim too many times, but just stimming 1 time, he should be able to pick off a couple of these units super quick. There is a Disruptor on the way. There is our first stim. Now, don't forget, every stim is really going to hurt. There are no medevacs here. Let's see if that Disruptor is capable of magic, because that's kind of what Zest needs here.
At the very least, get on top of the bunkers. One gets destroyed, another one loses its SCV, but the amount of damage, especially from that Cyclone, getting lock-ons after lock-on, is very dangerous. Stims, though, are going to be running out. Just the health of the Marines. The Archons getting on top of the tanks. Both of them actually get taken down, or one barely getting saved, rather. That was very scary. Time, has he done enough damage to go into a macro game? Not I mean, feel like it.
He might try, but I actually kind of felt like he should have been a bit more decisive. Really good job by Zest, though, with the shield batteries, because every Archon hit, there weren't that many of them, because Archons are clumsy, but every hit that those Archons got off was massive, right? They splashed over those Marines, and without medevacs, every single hit you can get off is fantastic. One more stim goes down. Slow Zealots will get on top of the tanks, and that is going to be it for the push of Time, who is still down 11 workers, and yeah, Zest, he made it seem like he's that far ahead, but it's also because Zest didn't spend his money yet, like we expect from Zest, because he likes to sit on a little bit of a Zest bank. If Zest actually spends those 1,000 minerals, I think he's in a really good spot.
I want to say Time just didn't really... Well, first of all, he wasn't muling all the time, because he was saving scans. He didn't try to plant down missile turrets. And I feel like his SCV production wasn't super consistent. It feels like he should not be in as bad of an economic position until that's happened. 3 more SCVs plus just continued potential from the Disruptor drops. But Time's already ready to go, this time with medevacs for his stims. Against the Disruptor drops, it's going to be really difficult to actually hold a position.
Yep, and there's a Colossus on the way as well. I'm actually a bit surprised that Zest went for a Blink instead of Charge. I think that Charge would have been a safer play here, because it's pretty clear this is a low eco game. Good, more decent split, at least by Time. Time is going to get his tanks in a pretty feisty position, but there are still batteries there, so I feel like units can actually tank shots here as well. Zest is just going to take the fight. He's not going to second guess himself, and those slow zealots, they look clumsy, but at least they forced the Marines to disengage, and that left those tanks all by themselves.
That was really bold of Time to do that. With the army in position and being tracked, like, the tanks obviously were going to get a late siege up and not really support his army. That was not the best, but I guess stealing the timer here. He could pick up from that. He could have, but only got 2 Marines anyways. Focus fire on the medevac from the Stalkers is really nice. Zest is going to be super fancy with this War Prism here. Time's going to try and save that. There's nothing in it, so, Zest doesn't really have to chase it. And if he chases that medevac, well, that could open up these other drops that actually have stuff in it to hit the left side.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only play that Time has left, because obviously Time is not building a third command center at home. He really doesn't have much of a follow-up. The upgrades are not fantastic. This double drop needs to do a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean at least 10 probes, but preferably even a bit more, right? Maybe getting the Robo Bay, that'd be awesome. Recall is going to be used immediately. Maybe Time can pick up and go back into that third base, but so far, this is not the damage he was looking for. Blink is done, by the way. It's got to be so careful.
Yeah, I think he could actually take this on. Well, all of his Stalkers didn't blink down, so Time is going to try and trade this out to the best of his ability. He did pick up units in the other medevac and is hitting the right side. This is the Time that I would love to see in a normal game. He's trying to multitask and just pull Zest apart. He is getting up in those probe kills, up to 11 with 2 medevacs, at least 1 with units. The other one, barely, basically dead, but it could come back in the future.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is what I would love to see when we don't have a weird start, or we don't have a scenario where Time is already pretty far behind. Whoa, what did he just get? He got the Disruptor? Yeah, just a Disruptor, not the War Prism. So that's a nice little pick off, but obviously Zest is in a super good spot. He's up 7 workers, he's up an entire base. Time is going to pick up the majority of his units, which means he barely has anything at home. And these adepts are really going to hurt as well. That command center is on location and feels super vulnerable too. I don't like it one bit for Time.
It's a risk he has to take, and it looks like he's getting away with a lot of Zest's War Prism micro on the left side, not the right side. He did need to take care of that probe. It scouted the drop, and of course Zest is in position. Zest also at now a more comfortable army supply, I think, to split, very well, not have to react to everything with his entire army. So I don't think Time will get too much more done. But, maybe by keeping Zest back at home, third is on location, a couple risks here and there. Maybe this would have mind actually doing a lot of damage. Maybe had it done a lot of damage, would have been good enough. But he is just behind in that supply, that army supply, and Zest is actually ready to go.
Yep. A really good call by Zest as well to attack that mine with the probes. Otherwise, there's a chance it does have enough time to fire at least once. And because of the cannon in the mineral line, probes are going to be a little bit more clumped up. So a single mine shot could be really big. But Zest was on top of that as well. He's going up to 4 bases during all of this. I mean, Time is hanging in there. And obviously, since he now does have 3 bases up and running, you can say there is some potential. I still really hate his position, but it's starting to look a little more like a normal game. And if he maybe snipes the War Prism, then finally there's some momentum as well.
He did get a cancel on that 4th Nexus, which is a better use of that very low medevac than I thought it would have. And also that found the proxy, which means he loses the medevac, but maybe he can take that out. He'd have to be very careful about taking that out, since his map vision is like nothing right now. Zest could be attacking into him and he would not know.
I gotta say, I find it surprising and stunning that Zest is at 53 probes, right? I feel like Zest could have easily been at 70 probes at this point. He really had a lot of time to build those workers. He's been in the driver's seat of this game for the majority of it. He's just not building workers. I mean, he's building a lot of Nexus, but he's not building a lot of probes. This does obviously mean that he's been spending most of his money on army, and that his army is a bit bigger in this phase in the game than it normally would be. On top of that, he's got War Prism speed. He does have Colossus already. The Viking count is at, 4. That's not really where you want to be as a Terran player.
He's got to get a good concave at the very least, but the Vikings, maybe they can take control with his high ground. Liberators will be very difficult to actually bust. Oh, that War Prism is going to barely scrape by a Widow Mine, which absolutely would have killed it, and has DPs. Okay, well, it gets killed anyways.
Yeah, it still gets killed. At least 2 Dark Templars are going to be somewhat annoying in the main base. They'll pick up that missile turret as well. Like, Zest is playing weird because he's playing ultra macro with like multiple prisms and double forts, but then at the same time, Zest has not built a probe for the last 6 minutes of this game, and that's not standard. And now triple robo of 53 probes. Yes, what is happening? Like, what am
I don't
watching?
know. Does he think he has more probes than he does? Like,
Yeah,
what is happening?
Maybe he doesn't. Do you use the little tab on the right top side where you can hover your mouse over your army supply and your work account?
Not, habitually, but I do use it.
Okay, I use it all the time. I think it's super useful. When they introduced that to the game, it's like 4 years ago. I think I was like talking to Elazer. I'll never forget it at BlizzCon. I was like, "Do you use that?" And Elazer's like, "Yeah, man, all the time. It's one of the most useful things in the game." I was like, "Really?" I was like, "Well, if Elazer is telling me, I should do it too." And there's a lot of people who watch StarCraft that are not actually aware of that. They're like, "How does Roddy know his work account so quickly?" I was like, "Well, there's a little tab on the right top side of your screen, and it's super useful, especially for weird and scrappy games." I have the feeling that Zest has not checked his work account at all in this game because 57 probes is just not that many.
And then he takes his 4th base gases, but not his 3rd base gases.
He's just having a good time, Jess. Let's just roll with it.
Yeah, I guess so. So, besides all the question marks about Zest's base here, his economy, Zest is in a very good position. Time has managed to get to almost maxed out. He can take a very good fight. His upgrades will be decent. Zest is, ahead, but not too much. But it's one of those games that is very familiar on Eternal Empire, where the Protoss can bot between the bases and control the flow of the game. Ideally, force a bad disruptor shot, well, a good disruptor shot for them, because the Terran is moving back and forth so much. But if they don't, they actually are, there is a strong chance that Time gets a maxed out army, with Liberator range, good EMPs, and we'll actually be able to take a fight, which I didn't think we were going to get to, but here we are. Time can absolutely take a good fight. As soon as he gets that 4th base as a planetary, he should be good to go.
Yep, especially because he's not even behind in upgrades, right? If Zest was at like 3-3 at this point, I'd be like, oh yeah. I mean, that's obviously what was going to happen after the way this game started off. Zest is going to try to be annoying with Zealots and Dark Templars near this planetary fortress, but he's not really going to win that fight. Zest wants to fight so badly, but he eats a massive EMP to the face there. I mean, they're hard to dodge. They're pretty big, but still well done. How is that disrupted not in the circle? What?
That was weird.
Yeah.
Zest does not immediately start 3-3. I thought he was going to put in the chronos into that, but not thinking about it. Does grab 2 ghosts of the Disruptor, but then lose the Disruptor on the backside. Actually, Time's going to go for it. I actually can't believe he's doing this. Disruptors are trying to be pushed out here so that Zest can safely retreat, because he was not prepared for this either, but the Concave was too good for Time. Simply splits away from most of the Disruptors, grabs a couple of them, and still the Zealot harassment not doing too much. Wow, Time actually kind of bullying him right there, but now War Prism in the main base.
A big one as well. Liberators are going to help out a little bit though. Zealots in the main base, sometimes they can be a bit clumsy because of the Sim City that these barracks can create. That's a lot of Liberators. Now obviously Zest had quite a few minerals in the bank, so losing all of these Zealots is not the worst thing for him, and he's going to replace them with more tech units. Like, it is going to be hard for Time to ever make his way to the other side of the map, right? Like, how do you chase an army of 5, 6, 7 Disruptors? But what is Zest doing? Like, 2 more prisms. I'm getting uncomfortable watching this. Like, it's cool, and he's still winning, I guess, right? Yeah, he's still winning, but why, Zest? Why like this?
Well, especially if he's not going to max out, if he's thinking like, oh, I'll just harass this guy to death. If Time does that thing again, where he just like, you know what? Yeah, I'll take the fight. Zest could be putting himself into a problematic position. He's down 40 supply, and an army that if it gets concaved on, if it's like thinking it's the big boss and then it's not all of a sudden, yeah, he'll die.
He just made 9 Dark Templars on the right side. He's casually researching Shadow Strike, Blink DT, on the left side of his proxy Darkstrand that's been there for the entirety of this game. I mean, Zest is going to try to snipe the planetary during all of this, and I do kind of like that move. Blink is not done yet, though, so these DTs having a hard time getting swipes off. You cannot lose an army like this. No, please, Zest agrees with that.
Well, it's kind of unfortunate that Zest didn't wait for Shadow Strike, because that would have bopped the planetary. Now Time might leave 2 Liberators to defend it. Oh, it's exactly what he does. Kind of being reminded that Zest has that big of a bank to do that maneuver. A couple probes going down this Liberator, but this is not one of the big mining bases. This Liberator might be able to do much more. Time desperately wants to push out and get a big surround on the army that he knows he can take on. But Zest, okay, what is this?
I don't know. There's so many things in this game where I'm just like, what is this? Now the Liberators do get caught off guard. Those disruptive shots, some of them have to connect, right? And they do. But at the same time, the entire army is stimming forward. Zest with his final shots gets some big connections there, though. And don't forget about the bank that Zest to be sitting on. He warps in 12 more Zealots. This is now a fight he really has to win, and he should be able to win it with all those Zealots. Oh my god.
Coming from the backside, it might just be enough. Oh, the army was early overstimmed. Then Shadow Strike DTs were actually able to clinch it. He notices them. He tries to scan for them, but they're just too much DPS. GG. That was such a weird game. But what a finish.
I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about a lot of the things we saw in this game. But in the end, Zest does get the job done. I gotta say, the ending was really cool. Because he warped in 12 Zealots out of the prism. And I was like, that should be enough. And then he brought back all those Zealots that he still had with the Dark Templars as well. That was really cool. Obviously, it's super hard for a Terran player to engage a Protoss that's sitting on 6, 7, or even 8 Disruptors. Because it feels like they never run out of shots. So at one point, you just have to pull the trigger and go for it. But it's difficult. But that was weird. A lot of weird things happened in that game.
Yeah, absolutely. That last fight was really an interesting one, though. If the Zealots don't get warped in with the Warp Prism, then you might lose the army on the ground. If the Zealots on the right side were trying to harass a planetary that's well defended, they're not there to help out. And the game certainly still goes on. But also one thing we didn't really get to mention before the game ended was that, Zest had actually increased his upgrade lead, and Time had never been able to afford 3-3. So that was also affecting his games, but also 8 Disruptors.
+3 attack and then +1 shields, right? Yep. He didn't get +3 armor. It's kind of funny as well. At one point, he was really running low on gas. He had like 200 gas in the bank. And I was like, I'm actually getting worried here. Like, you're one bad fight away now from actually losing this game. And with the way that he dealt with an initial push, like this was one of those typical Zest games. I feel like the way that he handled the Marine tank push, that was really good. Because that's kind of hard to deal with. If you open up Dark Templars, you lose your Dark Templars on the other side of the map. Zest didn't have that many units to work with, but I really love the way he got those batteries, how he retreated to those batteries a couple of times. He baited out 2 stims before truly committing to the fight, which meant that those Marines were all 1 Archon hit away from dying. Zest did that really well, but then he also did a lot of questionable things in this game.
Yeah, maybe he wouldn't be missing out on gas if he took his 3rd base gases. Which, eventually did, but it was an odd order of things. Maybe there was a lot of like, I think I can win, and then being reminded how good defensively Eternal Empire is, and having to be like, okay, let me just add some probes. I don't know, but it was a weird way to go for it. I can't blame Time for taking the fight that he did towards the end. No. It was a good concave, but it did also kind of start because he was a bit forced into it. He had lost 3 Liberators that really could have helped if they're able to siege up. They do quite a bit, but the concave was fantastic. It just wasn't enough. Plus, he had yet to get that 5th base down. His economy was getting outmatched, even if it took Zest a little while to get up to a decent number of probes.
No, I think you make an excellent point about those lips, because if those lips do get set up, then Time can chase, but he can also safely retreat. And then even that flank is suddenly not all that bad, right? Because what are those Zealots going to do? Are they all going to run through like 3 or 4 Liberators? Because Time did have quite a few, but losing 3 or even 4 immediately before the fight even really starts kind of just felt like, all right, it's go time. Otherwise, Zest is taking every single base. He's probably super rich, and he sort of was taking every single base. It's just... It was a bit weird, but Zest did get the job done, which means he's now up 2-0 and just 1 map away from advancing to at least the next round of the lower bracket. But Zest is really going to have to step up his gameplay. Like, I know Zest never really looks as like the cleanest Protoss and stuff, but if Zest wants to make a serious run in this lower bracket of TSL, he's going to have to play better, which we know he can, but he's going to have to do it.
I think for Time, he sees the potential weaknesses. He's definitely not thinking he's already out of it just because he's down 0-2. But you're right about the rest of the bracket. Zest is going to have to really up his gameplay, even as he wins here. It still has to be better to move on. I'm going to check out who he actually faces in just a second. But after the intros, Nightshade as our possible last map. In the top left down, 0-2, he is Time.
And in the right bottom side, our Korean Protoss player. It is best. Zest. Not best. He is best. It's Zest. There we go. Long day.
That's what you're going for. And I'm like, well, he's not the Brood War Protoss player, but...
Yeah. I mean, there is a Protoss player called Best, right?
Yeah, no, legitimately.
Yeah.
I think he played in StarCraft 2 Pro League, but he was one of the first guys I want to say that like just went, nope, Brood War, back to Brood War.
So we have him to blame for losing Rain. Okay.
Yeah, of course. Man, Rain and Sulky are both guys that are apparently just like damn good at both all RTSs. We just see what they should do in Warcraft, man. They won a lot in both 2 and 1 Brood War, StarCraft 2. So I was looking at who was going to make who the next opponent was for either one of these guys, and it is DRG.
Okay.
So Zest's EVP would be tested, which, for me, I always consider his EVP to be the more questionable, even though currently I'd say his PvT is looking like just definitely not perfect. But, you know, I said that for Katowice as well, and he ended up getting to the finals and a lot off his PvZ, so...
No, Katowice's PvZ was sick, right? I mean, he defeated Zero in the semifinals. You better have some pretty good PvZ there. And obviously just getting there in the first... I mean, that was an amazing run by Zest. And he did look good in that tournament. Like, Zest actually looked like a man on fire. He looked sharp. That Zest bank that we always joke about wasn't there that often. So far in TSL 5, he looks a little more shaky than he did just 2 or 3 months ago. Katowice.
Well, Zest was the one that really brought the weirdness first, but Time was certainly planning something weird himself. That 3 racks tank push was definitely not super normal. Nice catch in the Reaper. But Zest was like, oh, I'm going to Dark Shrine this game. It was a risk that ended up ultimately being okay because, you know, we won the game, got those Archons. But I am hoping for just our best macro game yet on Nightshade. So I'm ready for that blink to start up. That's why I counsel on a 1-1-1 for Time.
How did that Dark Shrine never go down? It was like the most exposed Dark Shrine ever. Not exactly in the center of the map, but kind of just on the left side, sitting there all game long. Eventually, even Shadow Strike gets researched from it. I don't know.
I mean, that's what happens when the Terran is terrified, because they know they're behind. They never go out and kill all these proxies.
Good scout here, of course, with the Adept. Didn't see everything that you hope for, but it's still nice to see that there is no factory there connected to the reactor building Hellions or Widow Mines. Like, even if you don't see everything, seeing something is already quite big for a Protoss player, and this is going to eliminate some of the things that Zest would normally have to worry about.
That's a very fast second barracks, so much faster on this Tim. Even delaying the usual supply depot, delaying his marine production. Big priority on that. Which I feel like was a build that people were using until everyone was like, nope, 1-1-1 into 2 barracks at the same time. It then became a standard. It's a very slight difference, but you do get stim a bit faster. But the drop, much more important. Can the Widow Mines do anything here? The Hellion, it's not really going to help, but it might distract, or it might just get a scout, which is also nice.
You know, just keep 1 unit occupied. Because obviously Protoss doesn't have that many units in this phase in the game, so even just keeping 1 or 2 units away from shutting down this Widow Mine drop. You know, Zest seems to be convinced that it's going to show up in the natural, but this spotting pylon is awesome, by the way. Like, these are the things that Zest does so well. Because now he can obviously reposition all these units. Zest? What?
I mean, Protosses know why they put that pylon down. They know the timing of the Widow Mine drop. Funnily enough, Time figures he was literally scouted. So he's trying to do the old, you know, oh, I'll just attack at a weird time. But he could have attacked. He could have gone in.
He still can, technically. He's like, no, I'm not going to be a bad Terran player. I'm not going to fly that Widow Mine or that Medevac into the main base of the Protoss. He's going to be super ready for it. Well, Zest was ready for a lot of things in the natural, but not for anything in his main. Somehow gets away with it. Oh.
All right. Well, Time might just be waiting to use that Widow Mine drop then when he actually pushes. You know, just as long as possible. Distraction as well. So he added another tank, which I didn't realize he was going to do, but it does make sense. He still got the faster stim that I was talking about, and since the other upgrades are faster, well, Combat Shield is definitely faster anyways, it can still time out with the push. With the Medevac coming in here. Zest is really quite good at a basic TVP, though. I know people who watch the thermal game might be like, but no, he usually is. He's good at buying time with these stalkers, even though he's not like forgetting or anything like that.
Yep. They're already on the other side of the map. Time still just has his Widow Mine sitting there. That Widow Mine drop is obviously supposed to keep these stalkers at home, but I feel like Zest is not even aware of the fact that it's there, so he just doesn't really care. He leaves one Stalker there. That's going to spot his army moving out. And now the other Stalkers can go back to the side of the map again to start picking off a couple of these Terran units. Now the Widowmine drop shows up. And it should get a couple of decent shots here. Wow, that's 11 workers going down. Well done by Time.
He also built a missile turret in the main base, aware of the possibility of a Warp Prism. A couple units do come back to try and deal with this, but the Marines will not be able to target fire this down. Widowmines are going to be able to burrow too late. I think that's helped take care of the Zealots. Oh, the Marines got the Warp Prism. That is going to help things a lot, but still like 7 Zealots here in Time. He still wants to do the push. He can't come back to deal with this, but is the push going to be powerful enough to make up for all these SCV losses?
Well, if Zest decides to fight without any Zealots, I would say like it is, but Zest is going to disengage wisely for now. One Immortal does pop at a very unfortunate moment. Zest, you just need a couple of Zealots before you lose these units. Zest is going to kind of take the fight, and Immortal got a couple of shots off, but these Zealots are saving the day here.
Yeah, they are. The tank also doing a lot of friendly fire because of those Zealots instead of being able to focus fire the Stalkers like he would have wanted. But a lot of expensive units went down, and Zest actually didn't even fully clean this up. Now, Time cannot reinforce, and he is down 10 workers. But that's a better position than I thought he would be in. He still needs to do a lot more because he doesn't have a third CC.
If it wasn't for those 2 Widow Mines, by the way, that got 8 more probes after the 11 they initially got. Without those mines, this game is super over, right? Imagine if Zest has 19 more workers at this point. Well, then it wouldn't even be close. I still like it for Zest, though. I think surviving the first push is normally what is the hardest part for a Protoss. And it may not have been perfect, and he did lose a lot of Stalkers and Immortals, but with some extra Zealots, especially once +1 armor kicks in, I think he should be fine. It is. I mean, he knows about this army. Whoa. Is Time gonna go for the natural? What? Okay, he is gonna go for the natural. What a crazy play.
Yeah, it doesn't really... It's like this really great thing in theory, but in fact, Zest even handling it perfectly by sending the Immortal to the low ground. It does not work out in execution. The Immortal might lose its shields a bit here, but it does hold on, and Time is still... I mean, he's really like all inning. Unless a third gets slapped down in the next 200 minerals, all in location. It's still, not great for him as the army stays alive here for Zest, as he continues to build up his probe count, which, yeah, thank God the Widowmines did what they did. But Time is not throwing down a command center. I just saw 400 minerals disappear. He's going to put it in his main base. All right.
I mean, he's only down 9 workers, but the biggest problem is that this base is already up and running for Zest for quite some time. And Zest, he's still just a single forge. Maybe if Time can just get a few decent trades here and there. There's a couple of Widow Mines. These Zealots running into the Widow Mines. That Widow Mine drop comes back one more time. And this time these mines will finally go down and they won't get the damage they did before. But look at this. These bio units show up and now they get all the sentries. Hey, that was a really good exchange, I think, for Time in the end.
Yeah, the Widow Mines didn't get the probe damage they did before, but they popped the shields and injured the sentries. So good, I guess, reaction to that. Time realized he had a chance to snipe some of those units and took as much as he can. Third CC, it's going to be kind of difficult to plant down a location if Zest will get his Warp Prism. I know it's around here somewhere. Sometimes he does use that to ferry just the High Templars around, but we're not at that stage yet, so I thought he'd have that ready to be aggressive. No, he's keeping it at home. Well, that's better for Time then.
Yes. I mean, the observers are keeping track of this Terran army, and I think that's massive for Zest. But I'm starting to get a bit worried. This Terran army is becoming so big that Zealots are actually kind of losing their mojo. This is still a moment where I think Zealots can shine. But if this army grows by 20 more supplies, Zealots will not shine anymore. So here we go. This is a fight that's really important for Zest. With all these mines, by the way, I feel like there's real potential for Time. Especially if he gets himself in a good setup here. I think Zest is going to be in a little bit of trouble unless these mines become trader mines.
Well, they're going to take out the Warp Prism, but not splash the army that much. Liberators do siege up. There's a lot of Stalkers, so they will be cleaned up as well, but he's going to go for the big pickup. I don't know, going for the main base would be a good idea here, but I think he is. He absolutely is. Liberator's going to distract for a little bit, and Zest is not moving his army. Oh, he recalled. That's what happened. All right. Yeah. Good split then. That was scary. That was definitely scary. Zest, I thought, was going to be caught out of position, but good enough.
Kind of scary that all these medevacts are sort of trapped here now as well. There is an observer keeping an eye on those as well. Time scans the left side. He's like, maybe I can go back, but that's a few too many Zealots and Immortals to drop on top of. Zest is getting another Dark Shrine. He's just loving the Dark Shrines today.
Feeling a lot better for Time. He's able to get his third CC on location. He was able to do some decent damage, follow-up trades. He had supply block Zest as well, so we had like a lot of bank for him that he's trying to spend now. He's ready to reinforce his drops. This is dangerous.
100 army supply. I think if Time gets his army together at this point,
Right.
I like his army way more than I like Zest's army. Instead, he's just going to drop in the back of the natural. But this is becoming really awkward because now there are basically two big fights happening on the same screen. That seems like really good positioning for Marines and Marauders, though. Zealots are having a very hard time keeping or getting on top of that. We have Liberator Harass in the natural. Time is stepping up his game, and Zest is starting to fall apart.
Absolutely. Unable to get a fourth base, unable to take the better trades like he was hoping. Now Zest is down 12 workers. He is down in a lot of those key units. The Zealot count now looking very convincing, and Time is just like, yeah, I'm on 3 bases, man. Like, I'm going to be able to afford my extra barracks, my Liberators, even my Ghost Academy, which will destruct Zest. Zest is not going to be transferring over into robotics-based technology anytime soon.
Yeah, like, I don't know how you feel about it, but I actually feel that Time doesn't really have to do anything at this point. He has to do something if Zest only goes into a Templar Archives for Storm, or double Robo Bay for Colossus or Disruptors. But as long as Zest is just working with Zealots, Stalkers, and maybe the occasional Immortal, I think that Time can just kind of sit back right now, especially because he's 11 workers ahead. The only issue that I sometimes have with Time is that Time has a hard time actually just taking it some time for himself, and he likes to always just move out and stick to the original game plan of applying pressure and being aggressive. He really doesn't have to do anything right now. The best thing that Time could do is do nothing. Just macro up and grow your army.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree on both accounts, but that's what he should be doing, and that's also something that he's had trouble with in the past, is just kind of throwing a little bit in engagements he doesn't have to. This is really nice by Zest to get some harassment. Obviously, he needs to do so.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Okay.
Still very, very injured and could die to even that missile turret. Certainly a Widow Mine. But yeah, Zest, he needs to do more damage. He needs to buy more time. But now I'm looking at a setup here, and I'm like, yeah, what is the time for? Finally slaps down that fourth. But I would have also expected a bit of a Hail Mary Disruptor play. Still no additional technology.
No, I'm with you. Like, the army is just not going to get better for Zest. For people who maybe don't play or watch StarCraft all the time, like Zealots and Stalkers with the Twilight Council upgrades are amazing against Bio, until the Bio wall becomes too big or the Widowmine count becomes too high, and we've got Ghosts in the mix as well. This is not a fight I feel like Zest is ever supposed to win. The Widowmines are doing some decent damage to these Zealots, and here you can see it. The Zealots just disappear. These Stalkers already have half HP because of the EMPs that connected, and Time's army is simply way better than Zest's army at this point.
Yeah, even with the upgrade difference, doesn't matter. It's just the army quality of Time with the Medivacs, with the Ghosts, the EMPs. Charge-outs coming in to maybe push this back, but Liberator, once again on top of that natural, is going to destroy the probes. And actually, the Zealots weren't enough. And with this drop still continuing on as well, I thought that was cleaned up. This is going to be game, and Time will not be 3-0'd.
Well done. Time played super strong. I think, like, if you would resume this game or you start watching like at 6 or 7 minutes into the game, I feel after that, Time played excellent. He was all over the place. He babysitted his drops properly. The Liberator harassment was on point. And Zest just kind of got stuck. And that's something I'm very familiar with when I like to play Zealot Stalker myself. I'm like, yay, I've got Zealots, I've got Stalkers, I can deal with the first push. But it's really hard to find that moment to transition. But normally players who are as good as Zest and other top Korean or even European predecessors, oh, that's adorable, by the way. Is that Apollo?
It is, yes.
Is it Apollo? I don't know if it is.
Yes, that is Apollo.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, normally these top level Protoss, they know when to transition. They know when to go for those Colossus or go for those high Templars and put a couple of those Templars in the Prism. Zest just kind of got stuck on Zealot Stalker. And Zealot Stalker is really good if the Terran army supply is like 50, 60, maybe 70. But as soon as it goes above 80, I feel like the Bio Ball in general gets too big. And then Zealots charge forward and they just disappear.
It was really that mid-game momentum shift, to exactly what you're talking about, when the Zealots just stopped, looking less as good as they usually can, and the Bio Ball is actually the one that's growing and getting bigger and getting those Widow Mines. Like, that's when we really saw Time take control, and Zest start to kind of flounder. He was like, I guess I have to keep making these units because I'm in a bit of trouble here. But that, just continued to put him behind as Time actually did expand, actually did add on technology. Really nice game there from Time. As you said, like post 6 minutes, was feeling much better for Time's TVP performance and much worse for Zest's PVT performance. The last 6 minutes for him kind of felt like all the problems he had finishing the game in Eternal Empire.
Yes.
He ended up winning that game, but it was a really weird game.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like if Zest doesn't get super far ahead, I'm actually getting worried for him. Like, I felt really good about that prediction after the first 2 games because I was like, that wasn't even the best version of Zest, and he still got up 2-0. Like, I think he's going to be fine. But now, even if he's still up 2-1, I'm actually a little bit concerned. Like, not sure what's going on, but it feels like he's playing pretty one-dimensional StarCraft. Like, I make StarCraft, I make Zealots, and I'll win a fight, right? And yeah, that sometimes works, but there are some moments, especially if the best of 5 really goes to distance, where you're going to have to show a whole lot more than that. And we'll see if he's capable of doing so. He's, of course, still up 2-1. So for all the fans out there of this man, you don't have to worry too much. But he's going to have to step it up a little bit. Hailing from South Korea, it is Zest.
In the bottom right, hailing from China, he is the Blue Terran Time.
I'm getting excited now. Like, I felt like, okay, this best of 5 so far, it was a bit silly, it was a bit memey, not exactly sure what to make of it. But in those last 6 or 7 minutes of Nightshade, Time showed us once again why we hype this guy up, why we get so excited of having a Chinese player who's as good as Time. He doesn't always show it, but once in a while he's like, you know, I'm actually capable of this kind of stuff. And he was just outplaying Zest. That's always kind of a harsh thing to say, where like, wow, this guy just outplayed the other guy. But there's no other way to put it. Zest was in a good spot. He was in a position where he could have easily won, especially after Time had that failed kind of desperation drop that went for the natural, right, with that Immortal on the low ground. I was like, okay, Zest, you're in a really good spot. Well, he wasn't able to capitalize on the good spot, and Time played out of his mind and just played better than Zest did.
I liked what you said, just that Zest seems like he has to be ahead to actually be confident that he's going to win this game, this series. So if he isn't, then it gets more and more in question. Now, I don't know if I like Time going for the leader opener again. It's not super committed, so it's not the worst thing. I'm glad he didn't do a 1-base factory push or something, but he is going for a 2-racks, which Zest did scout. Oh,
he didn't see the second barracks, right?
No, he didn't. I assumed he went back far enough, but no, he actually did not even go back far enough to see the gases. That's awfully risky. Yeah,
it's really weird. It's just a weird scout, because he's like, oh, I'm going to block the command center, and Time did kind of bait him, right? He sent the SCV to the low ground, and he's like, oh, I really want to build my command center now, which actually he didn't. Now Zest finally goes in. Good job though by Zest avoiding the Reaper timing, spots the gas, and now he's going to see the second barracks as well. And I think at this point he will figure out that this is indeed a multiple Reaper opening with a slightly later command center.
Well, because it's not proxied, it really isn't the worst thing to be scouting it either not at all or as late as he did. It's still going to give some control over Time, but Zest, I think he would have been happy, again, not proxied. I think he'd be happy doing the build he did anyways. Shield batteries being very respectful. That's, I think, pretty much what he has got to do, and then not going to derp and chase after Reapers. I guess it's what's in question is if Time does commit to more than 3 Reapers.
Well,
say
it's
5 is kind of the maximum. Yeah. But more than that, and that's just a real question mark.
Well, 5 Reapers, they obviously have some potential here as well. There is no shield battery in the natural yet. If I was Zest, I wouldn't let that Shade finish up, right? Don't do that, please.
No, I don't think so.
He is going to let it finish up. At least that battery should finish up in the natural, so I guess he's still going to be fine. Reapers are going to try to hop into the main base, but there is another shield battery there. So I think Zest is going to be okay here.
Yeah, just as safety, as cautious as he has to be to defend against this. Taking out one of the Reapers as well. Because 5 can still definitely juggle some of these units. You try and split thinking you have enough units. Nah, you really don't. Not against the juggling of the grenades. 2 shield batteries, he is good to go. Just continuing on to Blink. He maybe had to skip a couple of probes, or I think he actually just pushed off his robo timing, something along those lines. But Time, yeah, he also committed to this. And well, if it makes him feel better about the game, then so be it. He is still going to slap down a bunker as we get into the later stages of this game, as he also slaps down a 3rd CC.
Well, I like to see it. At least then we don't see a silly desperation push after the Reapers maybe didn't get the damage or the momentum that he was hoping for. I really like that he's microing with this, because the one thing that the Reapers will achieve, as long as Zest is, as long as those Reapers are alive, that is that it's going to be a little bit harder for Zest to send out a probe, right? And I feel like it's always a bit uncomfortable to send out a probe by itself. So then you kind of need to escort it with a couple of stalkers, but that gets a little bit uncomfortable too, because then you're afraid those Reapers suddenly dive into the mineral line and you end up losing 4 or 5 probes. So I like the fact that Time is going up to 3 command centers even before a third Nexus is warped in. I think it looks alright for Time.
I like all your points for sure. Like it's definitely one of those scary things where you can't really push out your army or push out a probe, as those Reapers are either going to find it or they're going to run in. Same problems that happen in TVT when you get to your racks. Suddenly 6 Reapers are in your base, you actually still lose, even if you technically defended. So it can be, but I also like Zest's approach to this, maybe realizing I'm going to be contained for a little while, getting a faster warp prism, and once
getting a Dark Shrine,
Shrine,
why not? Oh my goodness. Now when I see a Dark Shrine, I won't be able to stop thinking about Zest. He is gonna flank these Reapers, by the way, with 2 Stalkers, move him a bit forward. I feel like he could have blocked it. Now he's got Blink anyway, so he gets all but 1 Reaper for now. And obviously, because Time is playing very economic, that does mean that maybe dealing with all these Stalkers and a Warp Prism is going to be somewhat problematic. Like, we have 2 tanks, but they're not exactly in the perfect spot yet, so he's going to reposition one of them into the main. I don't know, like, this can spiral out of control real quick, right? If Time loses that tank in the main base, Zest goes for a crazy blink, then that could very well be it.
Yeah, I would have felt more confident if Time was still producing a tank, like a third one is about to pop out. But he's in production mode right now, as in building production, not using his production. It is very scary. I would have loved a bunker on that high ground too. Like, take this really, really seriously. You know that third Nexus is later than your third command center. You can afford to make some sacrifices, but even losing that tank on the front line, but maybe saving the bunker. Good pull on the SCVs to barely save that.
Oh, well done, Time. I mean, if that bunker would have gone down as well, this would have been incredibly problematic. Now it's bad. Yeah, losing the tank is bad. Lost a couple SCVs, but saving the bunker is massive because economically, this is amazing for Time. I mean, they're even in workers, and he has 3 orbital commands. That is a scenario that every Terran player will sign for. Mules just got dropped as Dark Templars are going to be warped in into the natural, into the main base. Oh no, dropping those Mules is a disaster for Time.
That's game, actually. GG. Zest does end up being best with a 3-1 over Time. Certainly making up for its performance against you, Thermal, and continuing on.
We stand as one.
Are you gonna give me orders?